Well, hello everyone. I have right here to talk about for a little brother. Being a little brother, a job too, right here. And you see right here that I don't know if most of us have seen this painting right here. I put it up on on Kuros on my art shop. But in case if anybody maybe has missed it, that this right here talks about my future family right here, and talk about Matthew McGuire's future family. And you'll likely think is that for so far as being a little brother, and I know that that seems like kind of like an odd question to where that we've seen from before of talking about for a little brother being a job, that basically if it is a job for anybody, then in exactly about what would your responsibilities be, if you want to call it like say your task of duties like your occupation or something like, yeah, what would your duties be based on from your work? And I know that if anybody's going to be looking at my work like kind of like one of these paintings right here, and let's just say that with this painting that I paint a picture of about maybe two people maybe standing right next to me. And I know I do this a lot on Facebook, even on Facebook, and even on some of my other blog pages, that I paint a picture of a person and maybe a child in there. And that I put on here for 2023. And so it's like, that doing some of the designing work right here. I have it, there's my future daughter, and then the future wife. But it's like, that a lot of people are going to ask me the question to where that what's this all about? So that sometimes I keep thinking that as somebody that if I can really read their minds very well, this thing is that oh, okay, what's this all about? Well, what does that mean? So it seems like that if we're going to be talking about maybe the audience's profile about if they're going to be reading anything about maybe statements or documentations, or if it's poems or the matter of like if they're going to be reading any papers and want to know a little bit more details about certain adjectives or which, but let's just say that talk about for little brother. What I mean by little brother, I'm talking about for like if you're going to be what you call one of the younger siblings of the family, and as well as that nobody else really had took their career in graphic design any further than I did. Nobody took their career as a digital design off digital design career as a further from what I did. So I know a lot about digital software and digital technology. So it's like you hear that story about a lot of people who are earning their degrees and getting social working, or it could be learning to be a doctor or dentist or maybe a lawyer. And like I say, that you heard about that to a lot of people who have a college degree, who don't have a college degree, and they're going to earn their degree and maybe do it maybe exactly about being an attorney or a lawyer or somebody like that, or being a carpenter, or maybe getting their CMA license to be into nursing or something. But how many of us are going to hear that before we talk about digital design, digital marketing, digital coupons, digital resume, digital handbook? What does that stuff mean? And I could probably say is that it basically means that the information that is provided to you in another source of way. It's not by paper. It's by whenever you sign up to have an account, especially by email. And I know that how many of us can maybe warrant to where if a driver's license and a birth certificate is going to be available by digital formatting, that that what you would need to do, you'll create a zip file, and then so far as that stuff that's basically done online and on the computer. But talk about for certificate, and I know the things that I talk about in one of my in the other video, talk about a degree that never expires. So let's just say that if we're going to be working on a resume and put stuff on there, and let's just say that if it's 5 years later, and then the questions could go by as to where even though if you graduated back in 2016, that don't mean 5 years later, then a lot of things are outdated. So whenever you have your degree in digital design, or it could be graphic or web designing or something like that, that anything related to mobile app certification or anything like that, mobile app technologies or something, but that basically that what you would see is that we're working on a resume though that you have right here talk about for a little brother, and for a little brother though that yeah, I call that like if anybody were to say that is a little brother a job, what does that mean? What kind of question is that? I'm like, is this supposed to be what you call part two of the discussion? But I'm like, what you call the sequel? But still, that the last posting that I was thinking about too, I was also thinking about is to where to go ahead and talk a little bit more, because I'm like, yeah, that talk about for like for marital status though, that basically that talk about right here is that if it's going to be anything related to the fact about a little brother basically means that what exactly does little brother basically mean? What do you call that? I'm like, I mean by that my career is not just a coloring book, and if anybody were wanting to wear that, a lot of times somebody's going to be willing to do an interview with me, mainly because that something that maybe interests them, or it could also be related to about okay, well, how much money are you making off of this stuff? So it's like when somebody wants to interview me, then possibly that they're going to ask me questions, and let's just say the other question could go by is to where that that you were working on something, and 5 years later, and then something comes around to where that somebody else looks at it, and then exactly that. If anybody would ask me that, do you know what your future wife's going to look like? Do you know what your future daughter is going to look like? So this right here would be example right here of my future daughter. And yeah, that, anybody say that. So it seems like when somebody looks at my work, it's like exactly that maybe the face is just a little bit, odd looking, and, exactly. So almost all the time that somebody's going to question me about something, about some certain things, but still though, that talk about for a little brother, that I can tell anybody here that if a little brother was considered a job, and then basically about what why would people be paying you to do certain things, but another thing I also want to mention too is anybody say would clients pay you to get to the truth as to where that there's $100 right there. There's $100 right there just to do research about this profile right here. This was right here was example right here of a profile, and knowing about that any information, proof of information about what school that I went to, and as well as that the profiles are still active, and as well as whenever you're filling out applications, and most of the time that they ask for a lot of stuff to be true and the best of your knowledge. So it's like, how many clients would probably say that, that they're going to pay somebody to get to the truth of the matter? And I also want to mention too is like I mentioned before about how old were we when we first seen $100 bill. And you're likely thinking too that, $100. If somebody that maybe offers to pay you just to collect the information, just to do a job or the matter, maybe just to order something, and let's just say that I'm willing to pay you $100 in cash if you place the orders for. So so let's just say if it's not proof of something, but let's just say if somebody asks to have something professionally framed, or if it's going to be digital prints. Somebody that they don't know how to print something out from mobile, so they're going to ask somebody like me just to be able to do that job for them. So it's like, if you're going to go ahead and give yourself a nickname, then maybe that one of my nicknames is maybe going to be Little Brother. The Little Brother Professional or something like that. The Little Brother Certified, License 1 or something like that. So Little Brother, you're going to go ahead and call yourself maybe Little Brother Mick or something like that, Little Brother Mick, and for my initials right there for Little Brother. And so just think about is that talk about for a future family though, that if anybody were to say, if that by the time anybody that finds out about, understanding about what my career objective is, what my goal is, as so far as what, my career goes by, is that exactly what is this digital design stuff and what is this graphic work all about, and why would companies be paying you to do this sort of stuff? And if we're talking about maybe doing professional photography work and maybe working on photographs and maybe graphics, illustrations, or something like that, for a wedding or maybe for a sports event or any sorts of festival or anything like that, maybe a festival going around town, that somebody say you're going to have little kids, they're going to be looking at some of that stuff. And so it seems like exactly about whenever something starts, it seems like that, you kept thinking too that, maybe you didn't really share. I'm like, yeah. The first thing you're going to say is like, can't we learn just to share something? Can you share it? But, in case if somebody asks me that, for being a little brother, being a little brother, is that considered a job? And like I say, well, why? Why do you ask? I could, well, little brother, because, I guess we want to know, why did you call it little brother? I'm like, it basically means is to where that if you're going to have anybody else that you're going to be talking to, not everybody has heard of this digital artwork stuff, this digital talent. So from the past 18 years or so, from the past 20 years, that, I've learned a lot about computers and doing, creative stuff. And if anybody were to ask me as to where that people are going to maybe start paying you in the near future just to do that sorts of stuff, maybe on the postal, on the newsletters or something like that, digital emails and digital coupons and digital sales. And they're going to start asking those questions as to where, what do you mean by little brother, if little brother is a job? I'm like, I look at it as more as a partner. I become a partner to the company, and then I work with other clients just to help them better understand about what I do. So it seems like if I were to be using this right here as like an advertisement right here, I'm sure a lot of people would probably be confused, and you'll likely say that, that advertisement, huh? Like, well, you have right there, that right there is supposed to be a little bit like an advertisement insofar as this business ownership and, marital status. And so, that if they see that right there, and likely one or two that, a few questions that come around there, but talk about, for how many of us that really need proof of certain things, but you have right here of talking about for the for the future daughter right here, and I have right here is the green crayon right here, but talking about and how many of us are going to maybe want to word it exactly about what your future daughter, and that you go ahead and draw the details about that, what your future family, 4 or 5 years from now, whenever you graduate, and knowing about what your future family is going to look like. But I can mention anybody too that having a family is going to be a big responsibility. But let's just say that if a little brother will be considered a job, how is that going to be considered a responsibility? I'm like, well, if you know what a brother and sister is, or maybe a cousin is, don't you? That, it basically means is that, you are what you call a member of the family, right? But the source of phrase I'm talking about mainly is talking about that something that I have that maybe other people had not heard of until that they're introduced to it. So let's just say one of those is going to be about posting advertisements. So it's to say that, you post an advertisement, and let's just say if your plan works, then people are going to be talking to you about it and want to know more information about, what's your solutions about that, how it worked. But so let's just say that, right now it's going to be, posting up advertisements because, if anybody say, advertisements like what? Like, advertisements mainly about to where that, you have something available for a painting, and maybe if you're working on something, like I mentioned before, that, that somebody that wants a copy of something, and let's just say that if it is maybe supposed to be, a certain design that you're working on, and, you're likely thinking too that before it goes up for market, that you're just trying to get a number of votes, from other clients, from about maybe 40 other clients. And like we say that, that whenever you first started working a business, that you were mainly doing this, you were mainly working on this, mainly for just, besides something creative. Besides something creative that, you were mainly working on this, it was like a goal right here to where little hearts. And how many of any of us have probably think about is to where, little hearts, what exactly does that mean, little hearts? I can write that, right here too. Little hearts. Little hearts. Yeah. Little hearts, that to me that sounds like a little bit like a charity. Little hearts. That sounds a little bit like a charity site that you can go to, maybe at the clinics or medical insurance companies. That there's going to be the Little Hearts Foundation or something like that, on those medical sites, to where that if you got any families that are trying to get insurance and trying to check into cheaper quotes, for them, and like I say that, why do you need a college degree? Why do you need a digital design degree just to get that? I'm like, you really don't, but let's just say that if you were referred to somebody about that, then I guess that's how you meet people, it seems like, huh? You meet somebody, and let's just say that if your nickname was Little Brother, and like I say, then that seems like, people buy your work, but then maybe they don't know that they bought it until maybe a few weeks later. So it's like, that it seems like it goes by, is that really a long story or not about how it all came together? But still, talk about the future right here. That seems to be most confusing for anybody who's going to be reading about that, is to where that, why is it that it's so confusing to everybody? And as you say, is that it hasn't happened yet, but how many times am I really going to say that, oh, okay, well, that really applies to me mainly? But you have right here as example right here of me right here, and that if anybody say that 4 years into the future, I would be about 36, 37 in this picture right here, and I could think necessarily too that if anybody were to see that maybe on an advertisement and want to know about that, if you can get a job being a little brother to the company, then maybe I would like to have a job doing that same thing too, to where. Did they pay you $100 per your salary? And so how many of us are going to maybe have children that are going to maybe ask as to where that if you're going to go ahead and be a little brother to the company, then I want to be a little brother too whenever I grow up. So it seems like you're going to have little kids that are going to ask the question about what I want to be a little brother to the company, and at the time that. Sometimes that I can maybe explain to some of the kids too that there's a lot of responsibilities about the job too, and if this is supposed to be a job, which I'm sure if anybody were warned to it, that by the time you get to a few of the points that matter, and then you're likely to say that I can see that you got promoted, or that I can see that it's the situation, but. I realize that, or I'm assuming, but, and I know that I also want to talk about as to where that, if anybody were to say that, what does it usually mean whenever you talk, whenever you think to yourself, whenever you talk to yourself, and I know I always think about doing a separate video, talking about this, but, so if anybody were to say that, if you would maybe be talking to yourself out loud, and let's just say if you asked a question to where you pass the word, I'm like, you spread the word. You spread the word. Or spread the news. Spread the news. So you're thinking as to, do I want to spread, I want to spread, do I? Do I? Do I want to spread the news? And now I'm like, if you say, if you want, I'm like, do you want to spread the news to anybody about, exactly about, an experiment that you were trying out, and if it worked, and, you kind of ask yourself, and sometimes if anybody say, what do doctors think about that? whenever you're kind of mumbling to yourself about something, and should I or should I not do this or that. But talk about for a little brother, yet like I say, that really, how does it all start to where that whenever you whenever you get whenever you get real interested in working on something, and let's just say that somebody's going to start asking you questions about something, and one of those is going to be about computer and designing. And so I know with me though, I really got interested in doing this source of career. Since my growing up, since I was growing up, I really like working with electronics and working with computers and understanding about the language. Say so far as the audience profiles, like say anybody who's going to be reading my documents or some sort. But let's just say though that you're talking about right here that that if anybody were to say that, does this sound a little bit like a betting game to where 4 years into the future that this is supposed to be the goals that's supposed to be happening? And I know if anybody say that, they look at it as kind of a tease to where I bet you $50 or I bet you $100 that this is going to be, I'm like, somebody wants to place a bet. They want to pay money just to get to the facts, no matter if it's true or false about something. But really, like if anybody say they may look at that as kind of a tease, but I really just think though that just to get to the whole truth of the matter, that this is his work right here. I'm like that this is kind of like whenever I was drawing this and working this, I'm sharing everybody here about what everybody sees right here, my future family right here. But you have right here is for my daughter, my future daughter right here. So let's just say it's a situation that does come up to where the future daughter, to where that I think a few things that kind of come unexpectedly, and let's just say that for my future though, it's like talk about for little brother that if one of the jobs could be is to where that you do things that maybe you're not aware of that for what's going on so far as that for what's happening now and what could be going on within the next few weeks. And like I say, is to where that how many of us can maybe think is to where a wedding can happen. I'm like, I say while you were sleeping that there's been a marital status that has been completed, or that there's been some complementation and there's been some complementation going on while you were resting, or that so if anybody were wondering to where that what's a good chances of the jobs are going to be taken care of, something's going to be taken care of. And so half the time it seems like that exactly that while you're working on something, even if you're going to be working overtime, that it seems like that you were getting ready to work on something, and they tell you that well, you don't have to worry about it now, it's already been taken care of. But mainly talk about for anything that relate to like a little brother, and I know I also mentioned too about for anybody or say that before that company has been in business before I was even born, before the wife was even born, since the year 1890 or something like that. So the company has been in business for over 50 years, and now it's like you might start getting emails about about hirings, and like there's going to be companies that are going to be looking at your resume, and they're going to maybe greet you by saying how you doing, that they're going to maybe greet the spouse by saying little I don't know if you want to call it little mammy. I'm like, how many ladies have been greeted by what's called little mammy or something like that, little mammy. I'm like, if a woman, if somebody if somebody was going to be working maybe for a job, but maybe working for a daycare. So let's just say if the wife was working in a daycare center for a while until they met the designer, and then it's like this cycle is to where that they met the designer, and let's just say that what it could be the future daughter too, but let's just say that this little girl right here was one of those one of those kids that was at the daycare center. So let's just say if this person that you met that you kept thinking too, that you draw out the examples of the details, and then within about maybe a few weeks later, And then that stuff was really that you kind of picture to your mind. It's starting to kind of remind you a little bit of what's going to be going on here and there. But so it seems like, yeah, that so far as paraphrase, that you try to explain a lot of these long stories, even though that they were set for the future, though that sometimes some of them that have happened in the past. But in case of a little kid were to ask me that exactly about little brother, is being a little brother a job? Well, it seems like you can say that all really depends on the situation, but I guess you'll try to tell them the truth of the matter. That I really mainly want to pick a topic of talking about that to where that with my passion as a designer, as with this career that not everybody has heard of, I use that word or phrase as to where that I try to explain to anybody else, any of the other clients, about who I am and what I do. But other clients may look at that as to where they know a lot of professionals who know a lot about chemistry, and a lot of them who go to school to be a doctor or a dentist or maybe a carpenter or a mechanic, but not very many of them that really know about this design stuff. Not very many people know about your digital work. So it's like, in order to be able to explain to them, it seems like that you guys show them something like a painting right here. And let's just say it's this painting, yeah, little brother, yeah, one of my first jobs could be about, for being a little brother career, task could also be about introducing somebody to a dental lab. Yeah, if you know of a few family members who want to get dental insurance, if they want to get dental coverage, if they're trying to cover, at this woman who's trying to cover, who's trying to get, her family of maybe 3 or 4 other children, insured to the same policy. And so let's just say, if the situation goes by as to where try to sign somebody up for insurance, and you can say that, well, maybe they don't know where to start unless that they talk to somebody who knows a lot about digital software. So yeah, that a family of 3 kids, and so it's like, so yeah, that it seems like it goes to the next step to where that somebody that they see your email, and then by the time they sign up, and then now you got to go to the website and maybe get some free quotes from from what you call it, it's like from a representative. We'll get you on the phone with an agent just to be able to talk to you about your plans, about that, for what you qualify for, and the plans that you can get. But we have right here, yeah. And tell anybody here that the way this poster is designed right here, it looks just a little bit like an insurance company. So if anybody were to ask me that you don't want to work for an insurance company, you may get paid about maybe $100 bonuses, about maybe every 8 weeks or so, that maybe you get paid a little bonus, and maybe per market group that you could maybe, if you work for an insurance company, and then knowing about what other families would pay you, so far, yeah, So a number of things are going through my mind so far as you explain to somebody, and Joyce, a few short paraphrase quotes about for what it means to be for digital design. What is digital design? That basically means is to where that the information is available to you online. You sign up for it, and then you're able to receive email alerts. You're able to receive emails. You'll have access to your information online, and you have access to it even by mobile. So it basically means it's provided to you through a file. It's through a personal file. And I know like a PDF file, and I don't know if there's any if there's any other name for a personal file. If you want to if you want to download information, if you want to receive information from a file, but then it's only sent to you maybe by text. So let's just say if you get a text message or something, and there's certain document information that is sent to you, but then it's not sent to you by postal mail. It's going to be sent to you by text messaging. So in case if anybody asks me that, little brother career, how do you get the mobile app working? I'm trying to understand here. I keep getting these messages on my phone here that talk about, that you got a message waiting right at this file right here. Please download it for more information. So yeah, so how many kids are really going to want that job to be a little brother? Little brother to the company or the business. And but so far as understanding about, yeah, what's it like to, to share something, so far as sharing something, so far as the marital status right here. And then your business ownership. But like they say, yeah, nowadays with most companies, they say you need to show proof of a certain information. But still, that how many of us may have heard that before, to where pay somebody to get to the truth of the matter. But the way I think about it too, that yeah, that if you're going to be working on something, and let's just say that the main subject was mainly about you were mainly working on this just to think about to where it's like a journal entry, to where if you have a future wife in mind, what do you think that she looks like? If you're going to have a future daughter in mind, what do you think she would look like? But whenever I draw it out and then I work the details on Photoshop, I can tell anybody here, this looks right here. It looks a lot like an insurance, like a dental, yeah, an insurance advertisement for a dental lab or something like that. Maybe except the toothbrush. You did not add a toothbrush and toothpaste in there, really just to explain the details about good dental care that we can give for our children. Good dental care. You get your cousin, or maybe your son and daughter enrolled in maybe dental coverage, and you can go in there and get the free cleaning and flossing, and something like that. But so if anybody were to say that that you don't know very many digital designers, that somebody who knows a lot about graphic work, doing computer stuff, say you call it a little brother, or what you ever call it. But I look at that more as toward it, if not very many people that know about it. I was like one of the only family members of anybody knows of who really pursued in their career and doing artwork and doing digital design stuff. So it's like doing graphic work and then digital design. That what is digital? It basically means that a lot of that information is provided to you, electronically, and electronically it goes by, it's available by using the amount of pixels, and so far as the computer programming, doing a lot of computer stuff and using source of technology on the smartwatches. So far as digital basically means that a new source of advanced technology that provides the information to you in another source of matter. But anyway, but talk about for little brother, and then so far as the career site, is a little job. Is a little brother a job too? And talking about for a little brother, that right there, that would be a little brother. But now, are you going to be the little brother of what you call this person's cousin, or maybe the daughter? Yeah, you met the daughter whenever they were working at the daycare center, and that's how they met you. But yeah, right there is that for the future family, right there. Talk about the future of our education, right? But other than that, but you have right here for 2023, and so yeah, that you have right there is the year right there, and I know it's going to be a little bit confusing, but talk about for a little brother though. Is a little brother a job? And you say that you want to go ahead and work for being a little brother. So say that again. You want to work for being a little brother. You want to go ahead and show more support, and yeah, that. So if anybody were to offer you a job, and sometimes that how many of us have experience